Hello everybody, welcome to part 2 of exploring Arch's watercolor paper. This is a little bit slightly larger than 5x7 sheet of Arch's 100% cotton. This is the rough paper. Usually I do a cold press. And yeah, we're going to see how it compares painting wise and drying time wise to the usual paper that I use, the Stonehenge Aqua. In the previous video, when I kind of just talked a little bit about the Arch's paper and how you can cut it down to this size very easily where it would fit underneath the mat, I mentioned that the sizing material is a gelatin, which I think it might be animal based. I'm not quite sure, but they are the only paper mill that does that, I believe. My clips are just a little too short, so I'm hoping as it absorbs water, it'll stretch out just a little bit, and then we can get it to flatten out. So it's completely saturated. I'm going to be working from a photograph that I took about a year or two ago. I'll have that photograph up on the side for you all to see. It should be up there already. And then from there, I'll have a copy that you could download if you want to follow along, and that will be available on my Patreon, which is linked down below. That being said, please consider liking, subscribing, and if you want to financially help support this channel, you can do that through the Patreon and other ways. I also have a whole bunch for sale on Etsy. Okay, so my one size clip down, I'm not going to stress too much about this, especially since it's such a small sheet. I can't imagine you'd get too much buckling with it. Let's see. Okay, so grab some raw sienna. I'll use a basic palette and I'll mention the colors as I go around with it. We're going to put in this clouded sky. We'll grab some ultramarine. This is a medium hake brush that I'm using. When I used to paint a lot in this size, I would use the small hake brush. This guy right here, but I'm just going to continue using this one. This is kind of my go-to brush. A bit more ultramarine up in this corner. And we'll try to get some grays going. I'm going to mix a gray with ultramarine and my raw sienna. You could also do ultramarine and burnt umber. You can also get your darks from Payne's Gray. What else can you utilize? Probably a burnt sienna ultramarine combination. Yeah, I think I mentioned that. Okay, if you want, we could grab a little bit of cerulean. This is the synthetic cerulean, so it's made with a phthalo, I believe. Okay, I think that is enough tickling for the sky. I am getting that buckling that I was a little concerned about, so I'm going to tape down that edge. Next time I get a chance, I'll cut these boards a little bit narrower for this size. Okay, let's start mapping out our water and our landmass. I'm using that same gray. We have a building right in here. I'll probably scrape out that building and then come back in. But I'm going to go for a super dark right off the bat. Let's do burnt umber and ultramarine. And I'm going to feed those in for my tree line. They're not perfectly mixed on the brush itself, plus this being rough paper, which will be more textured, I'm expecting there to be more granulation, ultramarine granulates, so that'll settle more into the I guess the pores and deposits into the paper. Bring out a reflection down. Now I'm going to try to get even darker. going to grab some light red oxide and mix that with the ultramarine blue. It's going to give me a purple. Now I'm just going to feed in so everything is still wet and wet. I usually paint 11 by 14, so this is a smaller sheet of paper, but I had speculated that maybe the sizing material, like I mentioned earlier, would cause a difference with drying. But I really think, and this is something that I always tell people, even though I'm down in Louisiana, I keep my house cold. Right now it's probably 60 degrees Fahrenheit in the house right now. So anything higher than that, we do between, temperature-wise in the house, 70 to 60. So temperature might affect it. Also, humidity within the household itself might affect drying times. In fact, I have some humidity gauges in our Bearded Dragons tank, and I was thinking about taking that out just to see humidity around the house, but I'm not sure how accurate that would be. Okay, this is just a darker mix of the burnt umber and the ultramarine. This is just to allow me to kind of feed in a little bit darker paint. And you can see it spread, so you can see everything is still staying wet. Now here is a tree. I'm going to offset it a little bit so that it doesn't sit right in the center of the painting. And we'll see how well this paper scrapes. So we have this building right here. So I'm just pushing down and moving that water. I'm going to come from the side, kind of just generally get the perspective shape of the house, that tilted angle on the roof. There's a smaller portion back here. There is a building right in there, and we could even go a little bit further and scrape that one. Okay. See if we could get some green going on in here. So this is lemon yellow. It's green. I was using it yesterday for a painting, so it had some pigment, some blue pigment mixed in. And I'll feed that for some interest and variety. And then what we'll do a dry off. We'll see how the tonal shift is, meaning how everything lightens up when we paint dry off. And then from there we'll add some different textured marks. Okay, so I'm going to pause the camera, watch and see how everything shifts tonally, how everything dries and lightens up. And we'll go to the next stage. Okay, so the painting is now dry. I'm going to stop the video in a moment and start filming the next half of it. So I'm going to do it as a part 2 or 3, just because people have been asking, and we're very receptive to the 2-part videos. So we'll refer to this one as the wet and wet stage, and you can easily stop the video, stop the painting at this point. Or you can then go further and do the textural marks on top in that dry phase, just so you see what it looks like. I didn't really account for the smaller matte size, unfortunately, but that'll give you an idea of just the wet and wet phase. All right, I hope you enjoyed, and check out the next video where we're going to be painting on top of this, kind of dry brushing.